Okay, so welcome to this recurBOY firmware update video. So the recurBOY is a digital video instrument that is based on a Raspberry Pi Zero and continues to be one of the more popular products from the underscores.shop label. And yeah, it's been quite a while since the firmware's got any has had any updates, so I thought it was time to put a little bit of effort into this. Some of these new features are things that have been on my list from the very start. Some of them are ideas that have come to me recently, and quite a few of them are from the GitHub issue list. So people suggesting small improvements or bug fixes. So I've basically gone through the list and done as much as I could on there, as well as adding a few things I thought were important. So yeah, I'm excited to show you what we've got. Here you can see my recurBOY on the table and the output. It's quite hard to make out what's on the screen because of the bright backlight. That is how these screens work. But I'll bring the webcam a bit closer when we need to see it up close. Starting with a renaming of some of the key kind of concepts within the recurBOY program. So the first change, the only one that really made it to the physical PCB, you might notice here, the old version, this button here was called mode, but I have renamed this to source. This is just in line with a bunch of other internal renamings that I've done to make it more consistent and clearer for what each things do. Originally, we had these three source screens: sampler, shaders, camera. And then if you push the button to the right, you enter the effects screen. And then you cycle between the source screens by pressing the mode button on the keyboard. That's how it was before. Now let's show you what it's like. So I've just basically renamed these to make it clearer. Now the mode button says source, and the three sources are video, pattern, and external. I think pattern is more descriptive than shader for what it does, since shaders are also in the effects, and it's more of a technical term. This is more of a descriptive term. The new thing that we've added now is a settings menu, and this can be accessed by going to the left of the source. So you'll see this when I'm showing you. And then finally, there's a new feature that's been added to this firmware update, which adds a couple more screens to the mix. So I'll just show you them now. We'll talk about this in detail a little bit later. So now to the left, to the right of the effects screen, you can find a text screen and a font screen. So you might be able to guess what's coming, but I'll go into more detail about what those screens do later. This is an optional feature, so you can turn it on and off in the settings. Okay, so that's about as close as I can get the camera, so you can focus on what's written there. So yeah, if I press the left key from the video screen, now we're in the new settings screen, and here we can just see a few different things. You can see up the very top, the first one says video mode. So this tells you whether you're connected via the composite output or whether it's outputting over HDMI. You can't actually change between the modes while the program is running. You have to turn the device off, and then if you want HDMI mode, you plug in an HDMI cable and power it up. If you want composite mode, you unplug the cable and power it up. And if you click on this, it will actually tell you that information on the screen, just to remind you. That's a limitation of the Raspberry Pi firmware. Here you can change between the types, so we can change between NTSC and PAL. Again, we'll need to turn it off and turn it back on for that change to take effect. And same for the HDMI type. You can change between 480 and 720p. These are the two different HDMI modes that recurBOY supports. And it will, yeah, it will remember what you set here, and next time you boot it up, it will respect this mode. Next setting is called CV upper. This is the upper bound for the CV input. So by default, that's 5 volts. So the CV will respond between 0 and 5 volts. It is possible, if you'd like to, just change this to 1 volt. 1 volt is the LZX modular video standard, so you may want to be patching directly from this. And yeah, this will just clip everything above that and only respond to voltages in the range between 0 and 1. Text enable, this is the new feature that I was hinting at before. You turn this on and off. If you don't want this at all, just leave it off and you won't accidentally end up in those new screens. Otherwise, turn this on to see that new feature. CV button. This is a special mode where when you turn this on, the CV inputs, rather than controlling the parameters, so usually these are mapped to the 4 knobs on the recurBOY which control the pattern or effect parameters. But when it's in CV button mode, these will act as gates or like triggers, and each one will trigger a different of the buttons on the recurBOY front plate. So one of the CV inputs will trigger turning the effects on and off. One will play and pause the current source. One will scroll down the list, and one will press select. So you can use this to programmatically kind of control the front panel with an external CV source. So that's CV button. Next is the image ratio. So this was a bug, I guess, in the original one, that the images were always stretched to the full screen. Now you can make it so that the original ratio of the image is preserved. And you can see actually this splash screen, that is an image, and that is currently in its original ratio. If I turn this to stretch, then you'll see here that that's how it used to look before when it was only in stretch mode. So you've got those options to go between here. Show frames per second, turn that on. You can see the frames per second that's running at. This might be useful if you're unsure whether, for example, 720p HDMI is running fast enough for you, since this is pushing what the Pi 0 can do. You can turn this on and have a look at, see if the program's lagging at all. ADC grain is the next one. This is how granular the analog to digital converter that converts the potentiometers and CV inputs to digital. This is how granular that is. So yeah, I guess you might want to change this, because if you notice that you're getting noise on your signal, which is causing these parameters to flicker, you can make it less granular, and that will stop that from happening at the expense of slightly less fine control over those analog inputs. Pixel offset. This is to fix a bug that some of these screens have. So you may have noticed on the last recurBOY video I was using a different kind of screen on my recurBOY, and there was kind of like a little one line of pixels at the top and at the bottom, either side of the screen. So if your recurBOY has that, then you can press this button and that will fix it. If you do press this when it's not got that, you'll see that it kind of messes up the display quite a lot. Makes it really hard to read, so be careful with that. Make sure you can get it back to normal. Hopefully that's, yeah, there we go. Okay, eject USB. So now if you plug in a USB stick to play your videos and stuff, you can press this button so you can take it off. This is useful, as we'll talk about later, for like hot plugging different USB accessories. Copy content. This is a little script that basically copies all of the files from your USB stick, so the video and pattern files and so on, and puts it onto the internal Pi. This is something which was a bit tricky to do originally. So now this hopefully will let you do it in the program without any SSH or plugging in the SD card or anything, any little workarounds like that. Finally, we have shutdown. This just turns off the recurBOY. You may remember you can still do this by holding down the play pause button, but this is just another way to access that. And then at the very bottom, you'll see what the version of the firmware that you're running. So this new version is 3.0.0. The S stands for software because there's a different versioning for the hardware. So that's walking you through all of the settings that are now in the setting menu. So with that in mind, let's take a little look at how you will prepare a USB for the recurBOY. Okay, so you should be able to see here, I've got this test fat USB plugged in, and it's got the folders being created in the format that recurBOY expects. So you'll notice now that the format of the folders, they match exactly the naming convention which I showed on that diagram before. Video, pattern, effect, and then text and font. Those correspond to the different screens that have files to choose from. So yeah, the recurBOY will still recognize the old convention. I think it was, for example, videos with a capital V and the lowercase videos and so on. Like that will still be backwards compatible, but this is how you should lay out your USB going forward. And one thing that I'll show you is that now the recurBOY does support navigating folders, so you can organize your content based on nested folders, as example, as you can see here. So yeah, I'll eject this USB from my computer and plug it into the recurBOY and show you what that looks like. So this is part of the new feature of the update is supporting hot plugging between different USB devices. So right now I plugged in the USB while the recurBOY is running. Hasn't updated immediately, as you can see, but if I push the source button, this is the button that triggers the code to check and update the USB devices attached. So I'll press the source button, that will switch over to patterns, and I push it again and back to video, and you can see that those new video files from the USB have been added. So for example, I can try playing one of these. Hopefully that will play, and then I can show you how the new folder navigation works. So you'll see here that most of these are files, but this one here is a folder that says credits, and it has this slash at the end of it. That's to indicate it's a folder. If I click on this, it will take me into that folder. Whenever you're inside a folder, the top line is always a selection to exit out of that folder. So if I press on that one, I come up a level back to where I was. So that's how you navigate folders, and then I can always select the content from inside that folder, just the same as usual. Yeah, so that's how the folder system works. That's the same on the patterns and on the effects, and also on the text and the font, as we'll see soon. So like the way that this kind of works is you've got our source page, whether it's a video or a shader, a pattern, or an external source. And then when I press to the right, I can always put on an effect, as we know. So that kind of that effect will go over top of whatever is playing on the source. So the idea with this text overlay is that this is kind of something that goes on top of that, on top of the effect. So we'll press right again to go deeper into that like stack of what you're showing. So I press right now. Now we are in this new screen called text, and here we have the option to either select live or we can select from a text file. So I'm just going to select this text file.txt. This is something you can create on your USB, whatever you want it to say. If I select that text file, then that comes up on the screen. These knobs, as you may know, when you are in the effects screen, this will change the parameters of that effect that's currently playing. When you're on the pattern screen, that will change the parameters of that pattern, if there is one. But when you're on the text screen, this will change the parameters of that text object. So we can basically change the X and Y position of it with the two on the left. And then we can change the width and height with the two on the right. And you can change between different text objects. So here's a different one. It's exactly the same. So, but you would switch between them here. And then finally, you can also choose between different fonts. So any TTF or I think OTF, which is the other open font type, you can put that onto your USB, or and then you can switch between different fonts in here. I don't have that many options. I have one here that doesn't work. Obviously, not every single font will display, but you get a lot of different looks by changing that. And then finally, when you're in this font screen, you've got a few more different controls on here. So you'll see here that the first knob controls the hue of the text. The next one will control that looks like the saturation. Finally, the brightness and the alpha. So yeah, and again, the control voltage inputs, these will connect to the same to control the same parameters that the knobs control. Yeah, the final thing to show you about text mode is the live text mode. And to do that, we'll need to free up the USB slot. So I'm going to come into the settings here and go to eject USB. That's just to safely remove it so we don't corrupt anything there. Now, yeah, you can connect any kind of USB keyboard to your recurBOY. I've got this little like USB remote thing. I picked it up for about $5. It comes with a rechargeable battery, and it has one of these like little wireless USB inputs. So I'm going to use that to demonstrate this live text mode. But yeah, any kind of USB keyboard will do here. Okay, so with the keyboard attached and the text here, if I go to live mode, we'll see the text has disappeared. But if I type into the keyboard, it comes up on the screen, and I can backspace things down. I can start new lines. And of course, we can still change the size and the width and stuff of all these different things. So first of all, you can always press escape, and that exits out of the text mode. So you can always just get back to where you were before with text mode off. So escape does that, and then the other command is F1 is what you can press to save what's currently on the screen to a new file. So if I press F1 now, you'll see on the screen there, recurBOY demo comes up as an option as a text file, and we can bring that one back. I don't know if I mentioned that this button here, FX, so normally if you push that one, it will trigger the effect that's currently on and off, and that will still do that in most modes. You can see it up here. Oh, you can't really see, but this there's a little thing that tells you whether the effect is on or off. However, now if you have it set to a either of the text or the font screen, now this effects button toggles the text effect on and off. So yeah, it just depends on what screen you're on as to what that button does. Final thing I wanted to show you is how we can hot plug different USB devices to use with recurBOY now. So you've just seen the USB plugged in. I ejected that and unplugged in the keyboard. I can unplug that now and plug in my trusty MIDI controller, and you'll see that turns on here. Now, as before I mentioned, pressing the source button is needed just for the program to check for new USB devices. Now that's plugged in, you can see here that my MIDI controller can be used to change different things change different parameters on the recurBOY. So yeah, and it might be useful to know that the MIDI controller, so the recurBOY only has 4 analog inputs, so these are the controls that control the continuous parameters. So you can't, for example, control the pattern parameter and the effect parameter at the same time. You have to switch between the screens, and then that will change what these do. But with the MIDI controller plugged in, you can control these things at the same time. We can have control over both the pattern parameter and the effect parameter at the same time. And again, that also breaks out the text parameters as well. So we can now control all of these without having to change screens. So that's the advantage of having a MIDI controller plugged in, or one of the advantages. So yeah, you may want to plug in a MIDI controller with your recurBOY, and then you may want to just unplug that and plug something else in, and that can be done now. So the final thing that we'll try plugging in is one of these. So this is a one of these cheap composite video capture cards. They seem to work quite well with the recurBOY. I have this plugged into a camcord. I'll just plug this in here, and hopefully you'll see this working. So that's plugged in now via the on-the-go cable. Pressing the source button should trigger the program to have a look for new sources, and if we're lucky, you see here, it's not so easy to see, but now we're in, when we press the source button, we'll now cycle between video, pattern, and external. So that's the third source that only comes up when there's a USB capture card connected. And so this has a 2 selection, start and stop. If we press the start button up the top and select, hopefully that will open up the camera. There it is. I can see myself coming through. Yeah, it's quite dark in this room right now, so it's hard to see, but there it is. And we can, yeah, as we know, we can put effects on that live feed, and we can also put our text over the top and so on. So yeah, that's those are really all the things you might want to use an external USB connection for. And yeah, if you wanted to take that off now, we just go to stop on the external, and now it should be safe to unplug it, and yeah, play something else or plug in something else. So it should be a lot more versatile to use the recurBOY for different things while it's running now. But yeah, thank you for watching, and thanks everyone who supported me and my work through the underscore shop by buying recurBOYs. I appreciate that, and this update is for you. So yeah, have a good night, and I'll see you next time.